into the expansion. So what are we going to do? Let's go through and let's discuss the top 5 best raid encounters of Mists of Pandaria. Now that we've seen every fight on every difficulty, and we've been through every single tier, every single LFR, Flex, Normal, and Heroic, what are our top 5 fights? Well, I sat down and I discussed it, because I had a few, and then a couple came up that were actually really good, and I think you're going to like this list. Let's get right into it. Number 5, Primordius. Primordius comes in at number 5. This fight, especially on every level, the reason that this fight is so good, at least in my opinion, is because of its replayability. Every week, this fight I looked forward to, because no matter if it was LFR, if it was Flex, if it was Normal or Heroic, you never knew what buffs you were going to get. As a DPS, this was one of the best fights, I thought, the entire tier, because it was fresh every time. Especially if you were playing a Fire Mage back then, or even if you were playing Arcane. But Fire, I remember, man, there was one time I got 4 crit stacks and a haste stack, and it was just like the most insane damage you've ever seen, right? I had like 100 and something% crit, and it was just the coolest thing ever. I remember other times I was playing as Arcane, and I had, you know, all like 3 haste stacks and 2 mastery stacks, and I had no problems with mana. I was just pummeling damage into the boss, and it was just so much fun to watch the numbers. Even playing my Warlock, I remember, you know, getting a bunch of mastery, and I was like, oh my god, and just seeing some of the huge numbers on my Chaos Bolts, on, you know, my dots on Affliction, just all kinds of really cool stuff, or getting those massive haste procs. But it just really was, in my opinion, came in at number 5 for me. Again, main reason was replayability. This fight, every single time you played it, was completely different. Yes, your positioning may have been the same, but you never knew what kind of damage you were going to get or what kind of buffs you were going to get. And I think that really made it a special fight that Blizzard made, and I really think going forward, a little bit of RNG in an encounter isn't a bad thing, okay? I really like that. Coming in at number 4, Elegon. Elegon. Opening tier, this fight was everybody's first real progression point, right? You know, as soon as you got the DPS to get past Garrosh, you could get past Spirit Kings, was all pretty much coordination, and then you got to Elegon, and Elegon really changed the game. I thought with the design of the raid, the absolute just beauty of the raid, right? You had the Elegon mount, you had this awesome room with a floor that came off, you had pylons where you had to DPS things down that were connected, so in certain times, and again, same thing, between LFR, Heroic, you know, and then Normal, it was really good. And it really didn't change a whole lot. The fight just, it always seemed fresh, you know, like in Heroic mode. I remember the first time we were trying Heroic mode, you know, you had to do a little bit of different strategy to take care of one extra ability, but for the most part, it was okay, let's get in our groups. Okay, we have to micromanage the raid. We have to kill this many, you know, of the orbs that come out. So you 3 are in charge of this orb. This orb has to die this many times. If it doesn't, it's your 3's fault. I thought that the individual accountability mixed with the beauty of the raid environment, along with the sheer damage output from the buffs and just from the boss in general, made it fun to heal, made it fun to tank with the ad coming out, and also made it fun to DPS for sure with the huge numbers that you could see. That's why this fight came in at number 4 for me. Number 3, Grand Empress Shek'zeer on Heroic mode. Okay, this fight really still holds a lot of the same principles between the LFR mode and the normal mode, but the Heroic mode of Grand Empress was absolutely incredible. It was an extremely long fight. This was your first endurance fight of Mists of Pandaria, that first fight that just took forever. You had a lot of different phases, you had stack points, you had good times to do cleave damage, you had good times to do single target damage. Everybody had to be individually accountable for watching their debuffs to know if they were supposed to go into you know, the different abilities and sit there and DPS, and when to come out when your health got low. If you had the debuff for not getting in there quickly, so you weren't just pummeling damage onto your raid. You know, I remember even things such as, you know, in our group when we killed it, we had Aki doing all the doing all the soaking on his demo lock because they could cast so fast. So that was one of the cheese mechanics for that. I remember seeing bear tanks making a comeback on that fight. It was just a very, very good fight overall. I thought it was an incredible encounter. That was a really endurance-heavy fight, and really just, I thought it was awesome. I thought there was so much good things that happened in that fight that Blizzard did a great job of making one of those fights where you have to stay focused for 15 minutes. And then even at the end of the fight, when at the end of the fight when you had the fear abilities going off, and then you had the one guy that had to go stack on the off tank, like, so you get all the way through the fight, and then if one person screwed up at the end too, you were done. So I thought it was just really, really good. There was very low forgivability, but it was an endurance fight. So that's the reason that I thought that fight was so good, is there was a lot of individual accountability, endurance, just a very, very good fight overall. Number 2. Garrosh, Hellscream, Heroic. This fight was an incredible encounter, guys. I don't know what else to say. It was a great end to a tier. It made sense. I would have liked them to really build up the story with Garrosh a little bit more. I feel like that kind of all came into fruition, you know, 5.2 and above, and then it was like, okay, here's your endgame boss, who you're fighting Garrosh. So that was kind of the one downfall that I saw with it. But again, in heroic mode, this fight is incredible. There's still under 50 guilds in the United States that have killed this fight on 25 man. Still under 50. That's how incredibly difficult this fight is. It is a fight that is long, so you have the endurance of, say, Grand Empress, but you also have so many different stages in this fight and so many different areas where you cannot be that person to make a mistake. If you're caught out of position and the ability picks you, it's a wipe. There's nothing else you can do about it. If you're not where you're supposed to be when Malice comes out in phase 4, it's practically a wipe. If your Iron Star Kiter doesn't know what he's doing, it's a wipe. There's just so many things that you have to get right to get to the next phase, to practice that next phase. It was very, very, very individual accountability heavy fight. As well as I thought the room is amazing. I thought the throne room was amazing. I thought having the phase 4 outside of Stormwind was an absolutely incredible place to have it. I just thought it was a great overall encounter, both in raid design, in individual accountability, in difficulty, and in different mechanics, because still to this day, you can go out on YouTube and you can find probably 3 or 4 different ways to handle certain mechanics based on class composition, etc. So it's one of those fights where, okay, if your raid group can't do this or this, you know, maybe try it this way and you should be able to get past that phase. It's just an absolutely incredible fight. And I recommend, guys, if you haven't had a chance, and if you're not reading on Heroic, and if you are, stick with it this tier, because you're really going to be rewarded at the end of this tier with this fight. Garrosh definitely comes in at number 2 for Mists of Pandaria, for me at least. Just as an absolute great little cherry on top to the end of an expansion. Finally, number 1. Everybody knows what it is already. It's Heroic Lei Shen. Heroic Lei Shen, I think, changed the game for difficulties for heroic raiders. Okay, this is a fight where you saw the top guilds in the world fighting it out for weeks worth of lockouts. 500 attempts, 400 attempts, 600 attempts. Even when we killed it in Last Word, we were still pushing, you know, almost 300 attempts. And this was months after, you know, a couple months after the big boys had cleared it. And we still came in and, you know, I think like 54th or 52nd or something like that in the US. So still nobody was killing the fight. It was one of those fights that just absolutely changed the game, I think, going forward into Mythic raiding. I think going into Warlords of Draenor with the Mythic raiding, this is going to be the encounter that we see. This is going to be the type of difficulty that we see, because remember, they don't have to make it for casuals anymore. It is now strictly for the hardcore of the hardcore can go into Mythic mode, and I think this is the kind of caliber of encounter that Blizzard loves to do. I think that they love to do this kind of thing where it's this kind of difficult, where you have this kind of personal accountability, and they can't do it simply because of too many people QQing about not being able to see the fights. With everything that they're changing in Warlords of Draenor, they can now have that group of developers who love making extremely tough encounters and super individual accountability fights and super coordination fights. They can mix them into one and they can bring all those fights to us. I think this is a precursor to the kind of fights that we're going to see in Warlords. I think we're going to see an incredible leap in difficulty having just one 20-man heroic raid, right, or mythic raid. There's only one size to balance around, and I think that was where the problem really came in for Blizzard, was trying to make these fights epic for 10 and 25, and Lei Shen did that. Super coordination in the transition phases. I remember, going back on the old adage, green team, strong team. I remember that the four of us, Lind, Domo, Aki, and myself, and even Naki occasionally, this fight was awesome for us because we were alone on a platform, and our synergy, by the time we killed that boss, we knew where everybody else on our team was going to be every single time. We had it micromanaged to the millisecond, who was going to go where, who was going to get what, and that's what you had to do, because if you missed one of those bouncing bullets, it was detrimental to your raid because you had to take so much damage off of Lei Shen, and the timers were so tight. Or if you didn't stack up for static and you were supposed to, or if you were supposed to solo static and you didn't, there was just so many different things that could kill you. Helm of Command, insane mechanic that really gave a lot of people a lot of trouble, because if they fall off the edge, you can't res them. They're gone for the rest of the fight. It's GG, start over. This fight was absolutely everything that a heroic raider wanted it to be. It was phenomenal. This was by far the #1 fight of the expansion. I don't think anyone can question the raw difficulty and the sheer elation when you actually defeated this boss. It was incredible. Absolutely incredible. And that's why, again, Lei Shen has earned my #1 spot. So I want to say thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed my top 5 best encounters. Don't worry. The top 5 worst encounters are on their way. They will be coming. But I wanted to get this video out to you. Obviously, as you can tell, raiding is something that I've always been super excited about. It's something that I love to do. And yeah, this was a really fun video for me to make. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you liked it. And as always, we'll see you in the next one.